Hi, Dr. Dave here to talk to you about the most common question that I get from my patients that have diverticular disease. Well, what should I eat? And I'm also going to tell you two things that many videos online get wrong about this topic. I see many patients with diverticulosis and diverticulitis, and it's my job to keep them out of trouble. So let's go over what the latest evidence tells us about topics such as fiber, prebiotics, probiotics, and seeds and nuts so that you can keep your colon in the best possible shape and avoid trouble if you yourself have diverticular disease. I'm a colorectal surgeon in Denver, Colorado. I work with Denver colorectal specialists. Please check us out on the web. I trained at the Mayo Clinic, and I've been treating diverticulitis for 25 years. So scrub in with me, Dr. Dave, as we go over what to eat and what to avoid if you have diverticular disease. So you hear lots of talk about good and bad foods for your gut. But what exactly is your gut? That's the first thing in many videos that is misleading. The gut is talked about like it's just one organ in your body. Remember, your gut is made up of your stomach, small intestines, and your colon. Three separate organs which have vastly different functions in widely different environments. Telling people what's good for your gut is like telling someone what to wear on a trip to America without knowing if they're going to Minnesota in the winter or Florida in the summer. It's just too broad. So let's focus on why you're watching this video. To take care of your colon. The colon is the last part of our digestive tract. By the time our digestive food reaches the colon, we'd refer to it as waste, mainly because our body has removed most of the important nutrients from it by that point. If you've watched any of my other videos, then you know that the colon's main function is to absorb water from the waste and recycle it, turning liquid waste into solid waste. It also absorbs a few things like short-chain fatty acids and certain vitamins. Now, the cells lining the colon wall are made up of glands and are functionally different than the small intestines or the stomach. And our waste takes a lot longer to pass through the colon than the stomach or small intestines. Anywhere from 1 to 3 days as it moves along the 4 to 5 feet of large intestines. And here's why that's important. This slow movement of waste allows bacteria to thrive in this environment and grow in the trillions, about 100 trillion.
Wow. Trillions.
Compare this to the stomach and small intestines, which by comparison have almost no bacteria. But not to worry, these are all mostly our friends. These bacteria are vitally important to our health, and so we need to take care of them. So if you have diverticulosis, which can occur in as many as half of Americans by the age of 60, then that means that you have these pockets or outpouchings in your colon, most commonly here in the sigmoid colon, not to be confused with diverticulitis, which means an infection of these pockets. So what causes these pockets to form, and what can you do to avoid it? Well, it's most commonly believed that the increased pressure in this part of the colon causes these pockets to form. It is the lining of the colon that pushes out through the muscle wall. And what causes this increased pressure? Well, when the waste doesn't move easily through the colon has to squeeze harder to get it to move. Remember, the colon is made up of mostly muscle, and the sigmoid is by far the most muscular part of the colon. So this is why diverticulosis most commonly occurs here. So what do we do to get waste to move through our colon without straining it? You want to eat foods that help stimulate the colon and work with it, not against it. To do this, you want healthy foods that are high in three things: fiber, and you guessed it, fiber. We also refer to this as roughage or high residue foods. These are plant-based foods that our body can't digest, but the bacteria in our colon love. Remember those 100 trillion or so friends that are hanging out in our colon right now?
Okay, that's kind of creepy.
We want to take care of them so they will take care of us. We should eat around 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day. How? Well, fruits and vegetables are a great source of fiber. Let's see how the most popular fruits and vegetables in the US stack up when comparing their fiber content. Okay, fruits. The most popular: apples, about 4 grams, bananas, 3 grams, oranges, 3 grams, and strawberries, 1 cup has 3.5 grams. Okay, what about vegetables? Well, potatoes are the most popular with 2 grams. Tomatoes.
That's pronounced tomatoes.
Just 1 gram. However, pinto and baked beans go as high as 14 grams.
14?
I know. But despite these great sources of fiber, it can still be hard for most of us to get 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day. So taking a fiber supplement every day is a great way to make sure we get enough fiber. Here is a sample of what's available from my local supermarket. And a vegetable that definitely makes the rounds on social media is cabbage, which actually only has about 2 grams. So if cabbage only has 2 grams of fiber, why is it portrayed as such a great food for you? Well, besides having essential vitamins and nutrients, it is a great source for a prebiotic, which is so good for your colon. Wait, What's a prebiotic? A prebiotic means pre, before, and biotic, life. It is a food or substance that provides healthy fuel for the bacteria, aka life, in your colon. Remember, there are trillions of bacteria in our colon, and though they help us tremendously, it doesn't take much to make them go a little haywire. So substances that will help our bacteria friends can be found naturally in foods such as cabbage, asparagus, apples, bananas, and beans, just to name a few. Now, if these are sounding familiar, it's because many of these are also a great source of fiber as well. Fiber and prebiotics go hand in hand. Now, our friend the cabbage comes from the cruciferous family of vegetables. This family includes not only cabbage, but other common vegetables such as broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and kale. These contain glucosinolates.
Okay, it sounds like you just made that word up.
Absolutely not. Glucosinolates not only promote gut healing, but also help protect us against cardiovascular disease and certain cancers. And remember, these are best eaten raw or slightly steamed to get the most benefit. Okay, so if that's a prebiotic, what do we mean when we talk about a probiotic? Probiotic is probably something that most of us have heard of. The words prebiotic and probiotic are so similar, you might think I'm talking about the same thing, but I'm not. Probiotics are living microorganisms found in foods and substances, and they are beneficial bacteria for our gut. Yes, you can put these live bacteria directly into your gut. So probiotics typically come in two forms, natural and supplemental. Right? So natural sources of probiotics are foods such as yogurt, sauerkraut, kefir, or kombucha. Now, in most cases, getting a natural form of a nutrient is preferable, but most of us can't do this regularly and sustain it. So taking a probiotic supplement is not a bad alternative. Now, this is a hot topic, so look for my video shortly on probiotics because I can't cover everything here. But the majority of probiotics are over the counter, and I generally recommend taking them for at least 4 weeks if you're having any GI symptoms whatsoever. But no need to continue after that if you don't notice any difference. And as far as taking them prophylactically, meaning just taking them even though you're not having any symptoms, well, the evidence on that is not as strong, but there is very little downside. So if you want to give it a try, then absolutely go ahead. So I've mostly focused to this point on what to eat if you have diverticulosis. But what if you have diverticulitis, either currently having an episode of it or have recovered from an episode? Is the diet the same? Well, sort of, if you're pain-free, but definitely not if you're in the middle of an episode. So if you're currently having an episode of diverticulitis, then your bowel wall is inflamed or swollen, so eating foods high in fiber at this point can aggravate it. So this is one of the few times as a colorectal surgeon that I tell my patients to avoid fiber. Bulk in your stools that is normally good for your colon can have a hard time passing through this narrow inflamed section of colon. So it's best to avoid it for about a week once you feel better. Then absolutely get back on the fiber, and many people are treated with antibiotics during an episode. So once you're done with them, that's the time that I definitely recommend taking either one of the natural probiotics I mentioned earlier, like yogurt, or a supplement to help recolonize your colon with the good bacteria that were weakened from being on the antibiotic. Ideally, a supplement will have both lactobacillus and bifidobacterium in the range of 60 billion or more CFUs, which stands for colony-forming units. Now, the internet is covered with advice of what to eat to prevent another attack of diverticulitis. But remember this, after just one attack, over half of the people will never have another attack. So if you read that someone ate diet A, B, or C and never had another attack, well, maybe it was the diet, but probably they were just never going to have another attack. We just don't know. But sadly, I see many patients after repeat attacks of diverticulitis saying they ate everything they were supposed to and still got more attacks. It's not their fault. So the best evidence is to eat all the things I've already mentioned, high fiber foods, prebiotic foods, drink plenty of water, and exercise regularly. That's huge. But here's the other misleading bit of advice that I frequently see on the internet. You're told to eat anti-inflammatory foods to avoid diverticulitis. Sounds reasonable, right? And though these foods are absolutely good for you, inflammation in your colon is not what causes diverticulitis.
Wait, hold on. Are you sure about that?
Listen, a pocket in your colon ruptures, and your body's response to this escape of bacteria then creates inflammation, not the other way around. Your body's immune system attacks the infection, and that causes the inflammation. And now you know the truth. The inflammation that develops is your body's way of protecting you. Now, I'm absolutely not saying you should eat inflammatory foods to protect yourself. That's completely different. Don't do that. And what about seeds or nuts? Well, there's strong evidence that people that eat seeds and nuts do not have more attacks of diverticulitis than those that avoid them. So if you like seeds and nuts, please keep eating them.
So if seeds and nuts don't cause these pockets to rupture, what does? Well, even though there are a lot of theories online about foods to avoid, the reality is we just don't know. It's believed that foods that cause increased pressure certainly contribute. A diet lacking fiber is the #1 contributor. And here in the US, only 5%, yes, 5% of people get enough fiber daily, which is why the US has the highest incidence of diverticulosis and diverticulitis in the world.
But as always, if you are certain that a particular food caused your attack, then by all means avoid it. No one knows your body better than you. So, to quickly review, if you are in the middle of an attack of diverticulitis, eat a diet low in fiber for about a week after your symptoms have resolved. And if you're recovered from diverticulitis or you just have diverticulosis, eat a diet high in fiber, prebiotics, drink plenty of water, and exercise regularly. And if you are on antibiotics, consider a probiotic to help restore the good bacteria in your colon. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Tell all your friends that you scrubbed in with Dr. Dave today and learned what to eat with diverticular disease. And please check out my other videos if you want to learn more about diverticulosis, diverticulitis, or surgery for diverticulitis. And I hope to see you at my next video.